those videos, the Plan B videos, those are all Mike Carroll. Like that's
Right.
all E&B, like all this stuff. I'm looking at the streets and people skating around. I was already, the bug was there.
That was photographer Marcell Turner. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Happy New Year, everybody. We first discovered Marcell from his Instagram account. His beautiful, emotional, mostly street photography captivated both me and Michelle. In this podcast, we get to know Marcell through the story of his childhood. He was born and raised in the San Diego area. He spent his teen years skating, listening to punk rock music, and breakdancing. Then, a road trip up north with a friend ended up being all he needed to find his new home in San Francisco. Here's Marcell.
So yeah, I was born in San Diego. Was raised down there with my mom, my grandparents mostly, and I ended up moving to San Francisco because I'm a skateboarder, and I grew up looking at magazines and videos of San Francisco. I'm sure you heard this story before, where San Francisco was a mecca of skateboarding.
It's my own story too.
Is that your story?
A little. It's not why I moved here, but yeah.
Well, I moved in '99, so
Okay.
You were 2000?
Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, around that time, and my mom, she had moved up here to get clean and to get herself together, whatever, years ago, and we were separated from, like, I guess I want to say from when I was like 14 until I was about 20.
Okay.
And so one of my friends said, "Hey, I'm going to San Francisco for Fleet Week," because he was in the service, and he was like, "Man, there's a bunch of girls up there, and da-da-da, do you want to go up there?" He goes, "Does your mom live in Oakland?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Let's just make it a whole trip." And I was like, "Well, maybe this is time to reconnect and see what's going on," because, you know, we have kind of estranged.
Yeah.
And anyways, hop in the car. I was going to be here for a week. We get up here, we're skating, and a bunch of stuff happened. Like, friend's car broke down, of course. Like all the bad stuff happened.
Where did that happen?
It happened in Oakland. We were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
not like on the 5 somewhere.
Well, it did too, actually. It overheated, and like there was a whole, like, the milk jug with the water thing, and like just every, you know. But we made it. It was all good. We're so used to having, you know, janky cars, whatever. You know, when you're that young, people just always have a janky car.
I was gonna say you were like 20-ish. Yeah.
Just making it happen.
Yeah.
And anyways, the week goes on, and a bunch of stuff's happening, and I was ready to go home. I was like, all right, I'm ready to go home. And my friend, he came over to me and he goes, "Marcell, I think you should stay here."
The same one you came up with?
Yeah.
Same guy?
And I'm like, "Nah, there's no way. Like, I'm going back home. I was gonna buy this car that I was saving up for, like all this shit." And then my mom said the same thing. Like, she goes, "Selly, this place is you. You should stay here. You should really." And I thought about it, and I looked at my friend. I'm sitting there, and they're like both telling me this, and I'm like, I said, "All right, well, check it out. If I find a job, I'll stay. If I find a job, I'll stay. But let me get a couple of days and see what's going on."
Okay.
I pretty much got hired at the Virgin Megastore right over here.
Shit, yeah.
Like, immediately.
The one that's like on market.
Exactly.
It used to.
Right down here. Yeah, right there. And so I get hired there, and that's what I started. I was like, well, here we go. I guess I'm gonna stay here.
That's a coming to San Francisco story.
Yeah. You know, I loved it. You know, like I'd been up here to visit before, and like I'm just skating around by myself and had my headphones on, and this is a lot different than San Diego. San Diego is super wide spread out, and like you need a car. Here I could hop on the bus to the Muni, or I could just skate wherever or walk, and, you know.
Right.
And it was just an adventure, and I'm 20 years old, and it was just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I'm here.
I think there's this conception for some people who aren't here, maybe haven't been, they think of it as a super hella fucking hilly town, and that skating would be difficult. And you're like, well, yeah, it is, but also we're like, it's like this big.
It's right. Yeah.
So it's easy. Can we back up a little bit to talk a little bit more about your time in San Diego? So
Sure,
you said you were about. Well, you said you were 19, 20.
I was 20 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot to fill in there, and you also mentioned that your friend was coming up here.
Yeah.
You came with him for Fleet Week.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I think San Diego's known for. It's like it's a big old Navy military.
Exactly. My family's military. My family's Air Force.
Okay.
My mom was born on a Air Force base, March Air Force Base, which is like by Riverside.
Okay.
And yeah, military family. I think I might be one of the only males in the family not to join the force, the service.
Yeah.
That's not me. I grew up skateboarding. I love punk rock music. I love hip hop. I grew up going to punk shows and skateboarding. You know what I mean? That's my whole thing.
Can we go back a little bit further?
Let's do that.
Because I'm guessing that skateboarding and punk is like teen.
Definitely.
If you're anything like me, that was teen
Definitely.
years.
Definitely.
Yeah, what was it like being a kid in San Diego?
Well, being a kid, I mean, so...
It had to be more than tacos and weather.
For sure. Oh, and I hate how I hate that. Like San Diego's, where I grew up is called Encanto. So where I grew up, there's blacks, whites, Filipinos, and Mexicans right there. And we're all in the hood.
Yeah.
It's hood right there. You know, on my one block, I grew up on Brooklyn Avenue. On my block on Brooklyn, down the way, on 68th, there was Crips on this end and Bloods on that end.
Wow.
On that same block.
Yeah.
And everybody, they got along as long as you were on that street.
Right.
But off the street, off that block, you know, it's open season, whatever. And
they had to front, right?
Yeah.
When they're away.
Yeah. And then some stuff happened, you know, like this dude got shot. This guy Kurt that I grew up with, who's like he reminded me of Snoop Dogg.
Okay.
You know, and this is before Snoop. I knew who Snoop was, but he always reminded me of Snoop Dogg.
Okay.
Crip. And he got shot. Him and his girlfriend were driving in a car, and somebody shot up the car, killed her actually.
Jesus.
He got shot up, but he survived, and he didn't walk the same.
Right.
But it was just, you know, that kind of stuff happened in my neighborhood. It was tragic. But then we also, on my block, we also were skateboarding.
Okay.
And playing Foursquare, and you know, it was cool, and you know, going up, building our own ramps, and going up, making ramps and our bikes, and like just like it was great on our block.
About how old were you when you first started skating, and how did you get into that?
Well, my best friend next door, named Jeremy Peterson, his older brother Jason, he had like a little crew, and they all like had the Tony Hawk haircuts, and like, you know, the whole deal.
They call them bitch bangs, right?
Is that what they're? Yeah, bitch bangs. Well, sure. I just call it Tony Hawk, but the Tony Hawk cut. But yeah, they had that, and you know, I didn't grow up with my father, and my best friend's dad was, you know, building the ramps and everything, and so Jason to me was like a bigger brother for me, and so I would just watch him. We all wanted to, you know, emulate him.
His dad would build ramps for y'all?
Yeah, he was a real gnarly, like, biker. He's a biker dude. He has a huge beard, and he's so awesome. And he actually photography, he always had a camera on him, so I was always watching him take photos and that type of stuff. But anyways, yeah, I started skating because Jason and his crew were skating right there, and this is the 80s, so like everybody had a skateboarder at some point.
Yeah.
And we just all were skating, and I stopped for a long time, and I picked it back up later when I became a teenager. But I started probably when I was like, I want to say like 5, 6, 7, something like that. Yeah.
See, I grew up in Texas, and San Diego, like Upland and all those like Del Mar, those skate parks.
Yeah.
Were like mythical to us.
Yeah.
So was San Francisco, but I'm thinking about like your more SoCal upbringing.
Well, Jason and his buddies, we were too young, you know, but Jason and his buddies used to go to Del Mar all the time. Their dad
That's where they had the pipe, right?
That's right. It would take them over there to Del Mar and stuff. Yeah, man.
Well, that must have been pretty cool. But you said you dropped it for a while and then picked it up later.
Yeah, I mean, I was a teenager, and a bunch of stuff happened. You know, like I moved around. Actually, I moved to, like, it was about 8th grade. My stepdad passed away. Oh, I should say this. My mom worked in a radio station
in San Diego
called Q106.
As a DJ?
She answered the phones at first, and then she started doing voiceovers and commercials. But at nighttime, she was younger, you know, so she would take me over there at nighttime when she worked her shift, and there would be an extra booth. She's like, Marcell, go, get busy, go do something. So like I would lurk around, and I found this booth that was empty, and I taught myself how to use all the equipment. I used to make my own tapes, and this is DJ Turner in the mix, and, you know, make my own. They have a script too. They have a script with, like, you know, the DJ's reading off.
You just changed the names.
And I just learned. I just sat there for hours, and I taught myself how to do it each night. Went to work with her, and it was great. But you know, my mom quit her job, and she was going to move to Las Vegas with my stepfather. Okay. And the night before they were going to move, he passed away.
Oh man.
So she kind of lost it, and you know.
Right. You were a teenager when that happened, or?
Yeah, I was like in 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 8th grade.
Skaters, very on topic. Very on topic.
Yeah. And then, so I moved to Diamond Bar, California, which is like outside of LA. And this is, at that time, it was being developed, and it was like pretty much it smelled like cows. You know what I mean? Like just smelled like cows, and it was like this old piece of land that hadn't been built up yet. Anyways, I lived with my uncle, and I was staying there with him, and I didn't know anybody. If you move in your own city to another school, you might know one or two kids somehow, like through a parent or a cousin or something.
Right.
When I moved up there, I started my freshman year in Diamond Bar, and I didn't know anybody.
Okay.
And so I was just like
very fresh,
super fresh. And this school was crazy. The way I described the school, it was very much like that classic, like the cheerleaders are dating the football players, and that kind of deal. Like, and I didn't know anybody, and I felt super out of place being black too, and I just so I would hang out in the bathroom during lunch every single day.
By yourself?
By myself, just
Holy
holding
shit.
the wall down like this, my arms folded.
All right.
And just trying to put up a front, but I just really, just was like, I didn't know anybody, and I wasn't even trying to make friends. I was mad I was there, the whole deal. And then one day this guy sees me, we're playing, it's after PE, I'll never forget, and he comes by and he's like, "Hey, you skate?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I can tell by your shoes." And I'm like, he's like, "What do you do? You hang out? I see you hanging out in the bathroom." He's like, "You don't know anybody? Like, what do you do?"
Right.
And I was like, "I don't know," like, because you don't know what to say. He grabbed me, he's like, "Come with me." And we went walking, go up to the top of the school, and we go down this corridor, and you make a right. And as soon as you make the right and you look down the way, there's just a row of skaters all the way in the back, throwing shit at each other, skating, talking shit. And I was like, "Oh, my peoples." He's like, "We've been here the whole time." Because I didn't think there was anybody like me at the school.
Right. Do you remember what kind of shoes they were?
They were Vans. They're called Lampkins. They were maroon and blue.
Right on.
Suede. Suede.
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway.
Yeah. I remember.
I'm imagining when you turned the corner and saw those guys, like I'm imagining some music kicks in and it's like
it was basic. It was basically like that, and I can see it in my head right now. And it's just I didn't know where he was taking me.
Right.
And we hit the corner, and I'm telling you, they were all like, dude had his shirt off, he's snapping the other dude with his shirt in the butt, and like throwing shit, and spike hair, and fucking piercings, and blue hair, and like, and I'm like, my peoples, yes. And it was just, but that was at school. But when I went home, I still didn't know anybody, and and my uncle, he was traveling a lot. He was a regional manager for Circuit City. You remember Circuit City?
Oh yeah, I used to work at the same building.
Oh yeah,
that
right
last
over here.
Circuit City on Van Ness. Yeah,
that's right. And so, anyways, his wife Maria was at the house, and I know she had just had a baby, and she was kind of like paying attention to the baby stuff and whatever. I had a guitar.
Okay.
And so I was just teaching myself how to play guitar every day. I was playing my guitar, loving Metallica and loving Nirvana. Like Nirvana was my shit.
Okay.
Like unplugged, trying to play the songs with the video. And yeah, man, that was Diamond Bar, and then I moved back to San Diego. I went home to see Nirvana
in San Diego.
In San Diego, the San Diego Sports Arena, and I went down there to see Nirvana, and then. Not too long, I think I went back home and I was like, I want to move back home. Like I seen my friends and everything, and I was like, I want to move back to I'm gonna move to Grandpa's house because this is me. I need to, we're all skating and like.
Did your grandpa live in the same neighborhood you had lived in previously, or close enough?
Yeah, it was that house. There was that house. That's
same
right.
house.
The same house. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I ended up moving back home.
And so this is like your later
This is
high
ninth
school
grade.
years?
This is all ninth grade.
Ninth, okay.
This is all ninth grade, and then.
Then did you finish high school there?
I finished high school in San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Almost. I got kicked out of high school. But.
Okay. You don't have to tell that story if you don't want to. I can take that out.
No, it's all good, dude. But yeah, I moved back home and started school at the high school that my mom went to. It's called Morse High School.
Okay.
On Skyline, and that was it. I was back home.
Does that more or less lead us up to that trip up here?
No, that's still ninth grade. So I just, that's ninth grade. So I ended up oh, this is a good one. I moved back home and I went to, so now I'm at another school.
Right.
So I have to meet new friends again. And one day I had my skateboard, and some dude sees me. His name is John Locke. I didn't know him at the time. Tall, light-skinned black guy, super, super big, like built like that. And he was bald. And he goes, "Let me see that thing." And he does a couple tricks on my board, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" He goes, "You don't know what you're doing on that thing, huh?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm just trying it out, just doing my thing." And he goes, "Tomorrow I'm gonna bring you a gift." I'm like, all right, and he walks away. He comes back the next day and he gives me 3 videotapes. He goes, take these home, play with your friends, and have a fucking ball. And I'm like, tripping out on what he... So I go home, tell my friends, we put it in, and it's Plan B, a skateboard company called Plan B.
Yep.
And it was called Virtual Reality. Yeah, so I go back and I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Like, thank you so much. Oh, and it was Girl Skateboards, Goldfish. And I was like, wow. And he then gives me a cassette tape, and it's a bunch of punk music, like all the Misfits, Bad Religion, like all kinds of stuff on there. And I noticed on his hand he had these black X's on his hand.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, what's that? Now I'm in. I'm like, I want to know everything about what I'm stoked on him. And he goes, oh, I'm a sharp, skinhead against racial prejudice.
Right.
So he ends up taking me to shows, and Volkswagen Bug, and like we would go to shows. A place called Soma in San Diego, and and next thing you know, I'm going to these punk shows with these full-on skinheads, trying to, I'm in the pit, like just having some of the best times of my life. Like I loved punk rock music. So, that was a huge part of my life, skating and punk rock, and then,
Had you even visited San Francisco before?
I came one time. I was in this breakdancing crew called Foot Soldiers.
Okay.
And I ended up coming here with my family. I don't remember why we came up to be. Oh, my aunt lived up here too. And I don't know exactly what.
Was it a contest or performance?
No, I came up here I just came up here with my family, but my crew, my breakdance crew were like, oh, you're going to San Francisco? Here's a shop you got to go to. We got to come back with some records and some mixtapes.
Okay.
So they gave me a whole, a list of things to get. And I took the BART to Daly City. At that time, this was so foreign. Like now, Daly City, of course. But I was like, where the fuck am I going? Like,
no cell phones,
and
no
there's
maps.
this little mom and pop shop. I'm not going to any mom and pop shops in San Diego. I'm going to the major,
the Virgins.
Yeah, the Warehouse. Remember that
Warehouse,
place?
Yep.
Sam Goody. And then we went. So anyway, I get to the spot and I get the mixtapes, and I bought Ghostface, Iron Man.
Okay.
And Redman's Muddy Waters. But anyways, I got that and brought it back home and to my homies, and I remember getting back and being like, wow, I really like. That was my first day. It's like, oh, I really like it there. Like, you couldn't find any of that stuff, those break beats and stuff down in San Diego. So it was just really, there was a whole shop catered to hip hop.
Yeah.
And it was just dope.
And was any part of that and I took a train to get there? Because you probably didn't do that much down there.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. Well, the whole experience for me, that was the whole thing.
Right.
And then getting off the BART and not knowing which way to go, and getting lost and skating up the hill the wrong way, and then going back around, and just and noticing that part of the city is Daly City is completely different than say where we are right now.
Yep.
Yep.
And
it's exactly the little houses, and then yeah, I had always admired, and like I said, through skating too, those videos, the Plan B videos, those are all Mike Carroll, that's
right.
all EMB, all this stuff. I'm looking at the streets and people skating around. I was already, the bug was there.
Yeah. So that trip that you went to the record store,
yeah.
When do you think that was in your life?
Okay, so that's got to be 11th grade. It's probably
so a few years before.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now...
99 is when I moved up here.
So now let's get to that. And
yeah.
So you had a little bit of an impression.
Yeah.
But you're
But it was different. Once the trigger was saying yes to staying. That's what changed everything. Once I said okay and I got the job, I remember driving across the Bay Bridge and looking at the city, and it was foggy and I see the lights and it's nighttime, and I just remember being like, all right, here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
Did you, very few people do when they move here, but did you know that you were going to stay?
I knew what.
You're young as fuck. You probably didn't know.
But I wasn't even thinking. I wasn't thinking about my age. I thought I was old.
Right. Yeah, you're I'm wise.
I was 20. It's 20 is old.
Right.
I wasn't thinking. I was living fast and doing. Doing a bunch of psychedelics before I moved up and all that. Just really just hanging out with older people. I always hung out with older cats too. So.
Here, you mean, or
in San Diego? Always here too.
Okay.
I just ended up hanging out with older people and listening and just observing and stuff.
Yeah.
And then and I just got here and I was just And right where we're sitting, we sit on my breaks at Virgin. Somebody brought me up here. I would just follow. I didn't know what to do, so I would just follow people. They're like, oh, we're gonna go smoke a blunt at the park. Do you want to go? I'm like, of course, yeah. I'm not gonna be saying no. You know, like,
right?
Sure. So I would just be quiet and walk with the crew up here. And like, oh, we're gonna go fade on a twomp. And I'm like, I don't know what fade on a twomp means. You know, whatever. Like, you have 5 on a 20 sack of weed. That somebody walks over and buys some weed. I'm like, you're buying weed off somebody on the street? Like, all the shit was in. I swear to God, I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is all, but I'm loving it. It's exhilarating.
Yeah.
And so we come right here where we're sitting, Yerba Buena, and smoke a blunt, and then, you know, somebody starts freestyling and making beats, and, you know, on the wall. And I was just like, I love it. Yes. And then I'm working, having grown up in a radio station, I'm working at Virgin, and I'm constantly around music. It was just perfect for me.
Did you live with your mom in the East Bay? Or?
I did until we had not seen each other the whole time. So we are not meshing well.
Okay.
I'm me, and she still thinks I'm a little kid or whatever. And
Right.
I've been my own parent for fucking years at this point. So we get into a huge fight, and I'm basically like, I'm gonna move. When I'm working at Virgin, like when you're done with your shift, you take your drawer up to the top floor to the cash wrap, and they count your drawer or whatever.
Yeah.
We get up there and end up meeting 2 guys up there. This guy Gavin and this other guy Ben Newbert. And Ben, we just hit it off immediately. He liked Wu-Tang, I like Wu-Tang, and like he was like, come to my house after, we'll smoke a blunt, smoke a bong, whatever.
Yeah.
And we go get some still reserves, whatever, because we're broke. We get whatever we can and go smoke. And then he had a spot. We had an extra bedroom. He goes, I ended up staying there. He's like, do you want to stay here? So I slept on the couch at his house, and I ended up moving in there.
Where was that?
This is in Lower Haight. This is
oh man,
Haight Buchanan, and it was hood back then.
Yeah.
It was really like we got robbed. Like it was pretty. It was intense, but I loved every minute of it because it's so brand new.
That was Marcell Turner. On the next episode of Storied San Francisco, Marcell will continue his story with what he's been up to here since his arrival. Please join us for part 2 this Thursday. Music for Storied San Francisco is by Otis McDonald. Photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. The show is hosted and produced by me. Michelle and I have produced more than 140 episodes over the last 3 years, and you can find them all at our website, storiedsf.com. While you're there, please check out our store, where in the month of December, we're donating proceeds of all sales to Supply Hope Info, a new nonprofit helping students with distance learning. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, where you can like, comment, and share the stuff we put out. Find our shows just about everywhere you can listen to podcasts, including most recently BFF.FM's new podcast network. Please subscribe to stay up to date on all the content we publish. We love feedback, so if you have any, our email is storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, stay safe, wear a mask, and stay healthy.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcasts.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.